Hello and welcome back to Clean Regime Health Coaching. I'm your host, Mike Espinola. Good to see you again. We want to talk a little bit about drugs today. Everyone knows drugs are bad, right? Okay, if you don't, you should. Anyway, the problem with drugs is, one of the problems with drugs is that they're made of chemicals. Now the problem I see is that you cannot solve a problem, or in this case a health problem, with a chemical when it was caused in the first place by other chemicals, even if it's not the same chemical. If you've got a chemical that's affecting and breaking down the body and causing health problems, then it's unlikely that an additional chemical is going to solve the problem. And I guess the best example of that would be when you do take a drug and you experience one of the many side effects from that drug, you might go to the doctor, let him know, like you're supposed to, you're experiencing a side effect from a drug, that you'll find that what he's going to do is he's going to give you yet another drug to deal with that symptom. Now in this case, the first drug, which is a chemical, because it has to be a chemical, it has to be patented in order to be a drug, otherwise there'd be no money made on it. So that drug's a chemical. It caused an ill side effect, or an adverse side effect, if you will. So now we're going to use yet another chemical to, in theory, solve that problem. Well, it doesn't solve the problem, and oftentimes causes more side effects. So the concept of curing or fixing something that was caused by chemicals with more chemicals just makes no sense to me at all. Secondly, when you have the belief system that it is nutrition, real nutrition, that the body uses to heal itself and to achieve vibrant health, or, in fact, cure itself, then the concept of the chemicals is not congruent with said concept. We believe nutrition is how you achieve vibrant health here. So again, drugs are not congruent with said concept. No, so they're made of chemicals, and they're made oftentimes by the same people that make other chemicals, which are in our foods, in the cleansing products that we use, and also in our environment, in other means, if you will. So these chemicals we're exposed to, and they are in fact what is causing health problems. Again, we've stated before, coupled with a lack of nutrition. Because nutrition is what your body uses to cleanse itself and heal itself of chemical damage and contamination. So what that means is there's no drug, to my knowledge, or at least, not many, if at all, that offer a real cure. We're talking about simply remedying a situation. Oftentimes, said situation was something that might have been contrived or invented or blown out of proportion simply to try to get you to take drugs. Now, drugs can be useful, they can be helpful, they have saved lives. We all know this. But the concept of having to use drugs on a chronic, forever kind of a basis with no real end to it is ludicrous to me. Because you're basically committing to the disease or the disorder. Because the drug is only helping you kind of maintain it and get through it. It's not curing you of the disease or disorder. So it's no bargain, in fact. And when you start to think about that concept, then you might say to yourself, well, maybe I would try other things. Especially when the information is out there. There's testimonial after testimonial where, nutrition has saved people's lives, cured disease, brought back, people from all kinds of health problems. So, again, if you get the right information, you'll realize that has been proven. That proper nutrition is how you achieve a cure to what ails you. Now again, drugs can be useful. Some of us let our bodies get too far behind, too banged up, too damaged, too many chemicals, too much exposure, not enough nutrition, and we're banging on death's door. If that's the case, drugs again might be useful. But again, my belief is that only on a temporary basis, not to be used long term. Because again, drugs cause adverse side effects. So in theory, you're taking it, it's doing something in theory good for you, but at the same time, it's potentially causing a lot of problems or some problems or what have you. Some of the side effects can be very serious from certain drugs. Some of them mild, headache, nausea, stiffness, dehydration, dry mouth, dry eyes, a lot of inconvenient stuff. But other stuff can get pretty serious. You can have intestinal disorders, organ breakdown and failure, cancers, and death. People die all the time from taking drugs. So drugs, needless to say, are very dangerous. And even some of the OTCs that have been around for a while, NSAIDs and other pain relievers, none of them are safe in my opinion. Some of them are more dangerous than others. But either way, when you take one, you're risking your health and you are doing some kind of damage to the body. Now, how healthy you are is how well you're going to be able to tolerate a drug. So the best way to take drugs and avoid side effects is to be healthy before you take them. But none of us need to take drugs if we're healthy. So unfortunately, we already have the immune system being broken down and the organs failing and all kinds of problems taking place, which is why we go to the doctor and get the drugs. So now we're putting a chemical in our body that's already fragile and breaking down. So at that point, it's even more risky to do. So again, think about what you're doing when you're taking drugs. Think about the side effects, think about how long you should be taking it. Again, no drug should have to be taken forever. That's really just confirming to you that there is no cure. And I guarantee you, unequivocally, if you want it bad enough, you will find a cure and you can be cured. But you have to have the right information, you have to believe in the right things, and you have to believe in you. Because no one heals you but you. Your body heals you. Doctors don't heal you. Drugs don't heal you. Your body heals you. It heals itself. But it can only do that when it's not beaten up, beaten down, contaminated, and it's given the tools that it needs. Car runs when there's gas in it and there's oil in the engine. If you don't put the gas in, the oil, it's not going to run. Or it's not going to run for very long. So we have to give the body what it needs and it will cure itself. Now drugs also, again, they're made obviously to help people on the surface, in theory. And then obviously they're made for profit too, because these are patented formulas. There's huge competition in the business. There's billions and even trillions of dollars being made selling drugs. So there's a lot of money in drugs. And we see that even more today. We see more health problems. Wonder how that happened. And we see more drugs to help remedy these health problems. I mean, every time a new disease or disorder pops up, it's like, yahoo, we got a whole new business, a new building, a new surgical procedure, a new doctor, a new a new school teaching about it. It's like a whole new business. So there's massive profits being made, and one has to keep that in mind. When you're dealing with the huge corporations, their main focus is the bottom line. They're legally bound to make as much money as possible for the shareholders. CEO can't get up and say, look, you can't sell these drugs anymore, we're hurting too many people. So you're all going to have to give up your millions and millions of dollars in profits. They're going to oust the guy in a second and lock him up in a nut house. It's just not going to happen. So we as consumers have to be educated and make the right decision. We need drugs, we need doctors, we need healthcare professionals. We just don't need as many or as much as we have, because there's no need for as much disease as there is today. There's just no need for it. Because we know what causes disease. So when you know what causes it, you can avoid it. And when you avoid those things, most likely you come out unscathed. We are at minimum going to stack the deck in our favor and do what we can, and we recommend you do the same. Again, if you choose to use drugs, use them sparingly. Try to use drugs that aren't new, that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years. Not to say that those are safer, but, they've been around. I'd rather not experiment with new drugs, in my opinion, and there's a reason for that. Drugs, at one time, took quite a while to get approved. You'd have to do your research and come up with your new compound, and once you did that, you started the testing phases, and you had all kinds of different ways you had to go about that, different guidelines, strict guidelines, which made sense. You were inventing something that was going to be given to sick human beings in order to better their health, so you would want to make sure that that was the case. And today, it's just not the case. Today, due to, again, greedy, ambitious drug companies and their ability the fact that they have a lot of money, they have their lobbyists change the laws in their favor. Not only that, a lot of these corporations actually get their people into these governmental positions, which obviously when they're placed in position, they're there for these corporations to work for them and to stack the deck in their favor. And that's exactly what happens. It's not just with drug companies, it's with big business all the time. And hopefully our Commander-in-Chief follows through with his limiting of lobbying. You should be able to lobby, but it's really just a bunch of payoffs. There's too much corruption today, and that's for another show. So the problem today is drugs. Because of the lobbyists changing the laws in their favor, they were able to get drugs approved in a fraction of the amount of time that they used to take. So even besides the amount of time that it takes, it's the actual procedure of testing and making sure these drugs are safe. The FDA now, because of the laws that have changed, says that we have nothing to do with it. We can't tell you whether your drug is good enough. You have to test it yourself and tell us. Hello. Give me a break. So the drug companies themselves are doing their own testing. They have complete control over it. It's like the Wild West of drug commerce, if you will. Drugs are being approved way too quickly. The approval process been shortened to a fraction of the amount of time. The testing process contrived and controlled by those that have created the drug and want nothing more than to have it approved. So add that up. It does not equal safe, healthy, useful drugs. It equals what we have today. A lot of dangerous drugs that after 6 months or a year of being sold get taken off the market because there's so many deaths. Well, a lot of profit can be made in 1 year of drug sales. So even if they know it's going to get yanked probably after a year, they'll take the billions that they can make up front, and they don't care about the deaths. And this is what's going on. So it's important to understand the dangers of taking drugs and to make better choices for ourselves. Not to impugn the intelligence or expertise or professionalism of medical doctors today. But they are trained and taught information that comes directly from the pharmaceutical companies. They're contrived reports and tests. That's what the doctors know. That's what they were trained. When I was a kid, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? You go to school, you learn what you need to know, and now you're this prestigious doctor. Well, You could be very, very, very intelligent and learn all the wrong information and think it's true. Happens all the time. So again, we as the consumer, as the individual, have to be a little smarter today. Maybe that's how it always had to be and should have been. But for sure, we see the ramifications of not understanding the problems in our environment today and the health problems that are caused by them. So that's what we're about here at Clean Regime. That's all we want to talk about with drugs today. Thank you for coming by. It was great to see you. And I wish you all the best of health and the best of luck. Take care.